Hey everyone, it's a dose of Dr. Drew. Hey everyone, it's a dose of Dr. Drew. That means you. That's your cue.
Give everybody a chance.
Hi.
Hi, Heather.
McDonald.
Wait. No, it's not our cue. It's not our cue. I'm waiting for everyone to pile into the chat room. Here they come.
Let's do a little shout out for Blue Mike.
Yeah, it's our shout out to our friends at Blue Mike who have changed our audio world entirely. This is Blue Mike if you're watching the stream, and these are Blue Mike headphones. They're just unbelievable. I didn't know things could be this good. And also, I keep chanting about Hydrolyte, which is something I've been behind for years. It's a rehydration product. If anybody gets sick or you're even thinking that you're getting behind on fluids, this is the way to stay ahead. It's the ultimate rehydration product. So please do get a hold of that. They have these little sticks now where you can just pour a stick into the water. So I encourage people to get that.
And it dissolves really fast because that was the one thing people complained about is the little tablets would just kind of.
Whoa.
Oh, sorry, my phone's on.
Oh my goodness. Is that available at our website, Susan?
Go to drdrew.com/Hydrolyte to find what's in stock at this time.
And Susan Pinsky, thank you for organizing these daily doses and engineering them. We're ending another week where we've done them all. Oh, Hydrolyte is sold out everywhere.
Well, try that link. There are some places where it's available.
So try our link and see if we can help. Thank you for organizing this week of doses, Susan Pinsky. Thank you so much. And thank you for bringing in our guest today, the great Heather McDonald. Heather, you are my palate cleanser for the end of the week. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me and everything you're doing, educating everybody about this. You've been, from the forefront. So,
well,
now you must be exhausted.
Yeah, I am exhausted. How about you? How are you and the kids and stuff? Is Peter just going skiing? What's he doing?
Oh, right. No, that was the bummer. When this first started, it was like, oh, well, maybe we could go to Mammoth. And then, of course, they shut down. And then golf shut down. And then everything shut down. But I have to say that I know this is weird to say because, everyone picks apart everything that you say. But I was telling Susan earlier, I think the last 2 weeks have been some of the best 2 weeks of my life.
Wow.
In the last decade.
Wow. Why? What was it?
I don't know. I mean,
did you watch all episodes of The Tiger King? Is that what happened?
I watched that, but I'm lucky enough in that I'm doing my podcast, and in doing that, I meet with my producer and I do like a video a day, and I've been doing like a podcast a day, and we're lucky enough that we just have this little office that doesn't have any shared hallways or elevators or anything, and it's just the two of us. So we've continued working. So I have this little out that I can leave the house, but I don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. anymore to make my kids breakfast and get them off to school. They do the Zoom classes, but they're a little bit later, and then you don't have the commute time.
Right.
And so I've been sleeping more, and it's been the first time in a decade that I've not had to get on a plane in this much, within this much time. I feel like I'm always at least every 9 days I'm going somewhere, if not shorter periods than that. And as much as I've always loved it and looked forward to every trip, it is exhausting. And so, I mean, I get sad about it. I woke up in the middle of the night and I had a Corona dream that I was hanging out with my sister, and I was like, we can finally hang out because we both quarantined ourselves. And then she went up and hugged this guy with a long beard.
Oh no.
And I was like, what are you thinking? I go, now you've ruined our time. So I'm still having stress dreams about what's going on in the world. But I don't know. I think even with my husband and I, we work together, and it's just been more chill and it's been less stressful. So
okay, good.
We've been getting along better.
And the kids aren't becoming stir crazy.
Kids are a good age too. Right?
They do a little bit, but just in general, I don't know. For me, it's been okay. I mean, I am obviously bummed, that it's a whole nother month now, at least for their school. They're bummed. I mean, my son is 8th grade and he is starting to be annoyed with it. He doesn't like it. But they have a pretty good attitude about it, I'm kind of hey, it's exactly what people joke about. You're going to have a story to tell, but it's a lot nicer than, generations ahead of us had to tell. And,
Right. I like that. I like that attitude. I like that.
But Drew, imagine.
Yeah.
If you had
so,
a 3-year-old.
it's, and hey,
That would be.
I
Wait,
still
hang a
had-
second, Heather. Susan traumatized me. She said, "Imagine we have 3-year-old triplets like we did." But that's Susan. That's Omaha Beach. Come on now. Come on. That's our Omaha Beach. But
yeah, I do think when your kids are really little, it is harder, because my kids are teenagers, so they're able to do their work. But yesterday I found out that my 14-year-old who's in the 8th grade had skipped a couple Zoom classes.
mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'm so confused. This is too confusing. They didn't email the way they were supposed to. So then I had, put it in my phone, do the alert, because I'm not home with them sitting next to them every day. So I'm not really homeschooling them, but then you got to make sure that they actually get on the Zoom and do their classes. And I think, the teachers are great, but that's the other thing. If someone's listening to this and they are having trouble, look, the teachers have time. They should, you can email them directly, or they can even call you back. And at least mine have. And so, sometimes in normal times you don't want to bother the teacher that much.
Right.
They're not at school for 10 hours a day, so they can make a point to call you back if your kid needs extra help, or if something an assignment wasn't getting done or something. I mean, who cares? I don't know. It's sad though, because the play isn't going to happen, and my son. Oh, but this is the other positive. I've been trying to think of lots of Corona positives.
So,
One positive is with the, my son plays golf, and he's a very good golfer, and he's the best golfer on the team or whatever. And and this is his junior year, and this is their season, which is now gone, and that may affect him getting into school. But then at the same time, I'm like, at least it's everybody going through
right.
this.
That's generally I think where people find some solace is going, we are in this together. It's not like somebody's got it better. There are people that have it worse, let's be fair, but there's nobody that has it good.
Yeah, but if there was one part of the country that was hit by, a natural disaster, and that whole city, those kids don't get to participate in sports, whatever, you're like, oh, they're going to be at a disadvantage. But because everybody is,
right,
all the SATs and ACT classes and tests have been canceled, and those kind of things, I'm like, well, just chill. And I really do enjoy. We're watching regular TV together, and and I am, as my kids get older, I'm like, I know I'm gonna look back and kind of cherish this time. So for me, I have cherished it. I have liked it, but I'm also very fortunate in that, we each have our own bedrooms. We have plenty of food. We can afford to get takeout.
Right.
And, but we got takeout from Fleming's the other night. And
wow.
I picked up curbside. I know, kind of fancy. And I picked up curbside. And when I was taking it out, I was like, what is this? And it was a card, a full-on real card. Thank you. A handwritten note. I mean, I started to cry. Peter filmed it. I actually started to cry.
Wow.
I'm going to start crying thinking that they were just like, thank you so much for choosing Fleming's, and to think that this manager at the store spent her day, making sure, thought of this extra marketing to write a personal thank you
because
note.
It's not just marketing; they are truly grateful to have business, and that's I think we all have to. So Heather, my Restream world is asking for a Corona update. They come here for that, so let me give that, and then and then we're going to switch back to Heather McDonald and her podcast Juicy Scoop. She's going to give me some updates. I want a positive palate cleanser for the end of the week here.
I have one more thing to add.
Okay.
What, Susan? What's that?
If anybody's in
your mic's not on.
Oh, yeah, I am.
It's
what's up with my mic?
There you are.
Today? It's weird. I have one more thing. If anybody's in is Pauline in Greenpoint?
Yeah, Greenpoint, Brooklyn.
If anybody's in that area and knows of any markets that are delivering, we were kind of wondering about that this morning, because some places are not able to deliver. You can't get an appointment with the regular places. But if you know anybody who's delivering food in that area, go ahead and mention it on Restream.
All right, so I got a bunch of things to comment on here in the Restream. Thank you, Goddess, for reading my commentary on. Now I'm blanking on the name of the series with that. Shoot. It was on, yes, Patrick Melrose. Thank you for that. Also, some people from Oklahoma, Heather, have rung in saying that Joe Exotic has been a source of shame for the state for quite some time. Now we're all aware of him and his story. But let's get to Corona. So we are at about, we're approaching 100,000 cases in the United States, though there are differing numbers on this. Here's the COVID Tracking Project, which is a really good source. And they are saying we are at 82,000. So I'm guessing they're behind. I'm gonna get it's around 90,000. I had said last week that I predicted by Friday of this week we'd be around 60,000. I was hoping, but up to 90,000 would still be doing pretty good. If you heard me on Colin Cowherd, I predicted 100,000. I feel pretty good about where we are. I don't like what's happening to New York, of course. How could you possibly like that? But they are rising to the occasion. They're meeting the needs of the moment. And this is generally what I want people to understand, is that the healthcare system will respond to this. They are preparing for the worst case scenario. There will be some desperate moments, and we will respond to this. Here in Southern California, I was listening to the head of the Department of Health, who is way ahead of this in terms of availability of ventilators and intensive care beds. In the LA County area, we have 1,400 cases right now. In the greater area, we have about 3,000 cases in a catchment area of 30 million. We are doing very, very well here. And in California, we have one of the lowest per capita and flat per capita fatality rates in the country. So California is doing great. Our mayor keeps telling us we're going to be where New York is by next Tuesday. Not if we keep doing this well. No way. We're going to be much, much better off. There could be some local surges. And so on the Restream, people are asking, what about what Dr. Fauci is saying? He is beginning to talk about two things, and you should listen very carefully. And Dr. Birx, those are the two people you listen to. What they are saying is next week we'll start to have some data on treatment. And if treatment, A, works, and B, decreases viral shedding so people are no longer infectious, that will change everything. It will decrease the hospitalization rate, decrease the fatality rate, which is what we're trying to push down. Be fair, this whole effort was to give us time to do that kind of thing. So let's hope next week we get some good data on treatment. Number two, Dr. Birx has been in Africa following AIDS patients and tracking them and tracking how the outbreak migrates in Africa using technology. And she yesterday said she will do that here. So what that means is we'll begin to test people in areas where there's very rare cases. We'll isolate them. We'll isolate their contacts. We'll find out who's immune. We'll start taking serology tests, and people will start going back to work. Consider all the thousands of cases in New York. Those people are all immune once they recover. There's no reason they can't return to work, potentially, if they're not shedding virus. So this is all things that'll be coming next week. You'll start hearing about these sorts of localized, targeted sorts of rollouts where it is safe. Interestingly, in China today, they are having an outbreak. It's interesting. It's sort of what it says to me is that it's impossible to keep the thing totally isolated in a region. It just has a way of getting out. All it needs is one case outside of the region, and that's what's happening in China right now. And in a weird way, we're better off in that it's already carpeted the whole country, and we've got it kind of isolated in local domains. We will have immunity in this country before Greater China will. So it's kind of interesting. We'll see. We'll see if that works to our advantage or not. But we are in it now. We're deep in it. And New York City is suffering. I get that. The rest of the country is doing pretty good. I understand Michigan's got some challenges. Chicago's going to have some challenges. I suspect Boston, Detroit will have some challenges. We're in it now. Next week is where we find out about the road out. So I hope that gives you guys a nice update. And Melissa wants to know, what are our thoughts on Oklahoma? Heather, what are your thoughts on Oklahoma?
So I love that everybody, this is what's great. Is there's this great documentary, The Tiger King, that I suggest everybody watch. It's entertaining. You can watch it with your family. And it was this amazing, weird guy that, had started his own, basically his own like tiger zoo in his backyard. And he's this gun-toting, tattooed, piercing, but he's gay, and he has multiple husbands. So it's gay, polygamy, polygamy, and then he hates this woman named Carol. And I just did a video of me as Carol. That's his nemesis because she wants to. She's got God. Hey, cool cats and kittens. It's Carol from Big Cat Rescue. And so it is an amazing Netflix documentary. So that's what everyone's talking about. And I mean, there's like one guy had only 6 teeth. this other person working there had their arm bit off, and they went back to work within like hours.
Right.
I mean, it is just
It's beyond.
so entertaining. And it is one of the things in this quarantine that have been a lot of comedy that has brought people together, a lot of internet, social media comedy that I think has been kind of great. So that's a little highlight.
Yeah, it's the one thing that people have been talking about to get their mind off this thing. So somebody's saying, Troy's saying, Carol has crazy eyes. Well, Carol's story, Heather, is that she was held at knife point and raped by 3 men at 14. And she went home and told her mom, and mom said, you asked for it. And so she left home.
Oh, that was.
And then he picked
So
her up.
but that's a good part of her story. But do you also think that she killed her husband, who just went missing to Costa Rica and never contacted anyone again?
Here's what I know about everyone in that whole series. It seems like everyone except Carol and her husband are drug addicts or drug traffickers, something with drugs. So I'm betting that guy was doing drugs, because that guy was he trafficking the big cats. He probably trafficking drugs, and somebody from Mexico probably killed him. That's my bet.
You think her husband got killed by somebody else?
I do, because I think it was something to do with because remember, he was going down there, he was going to have some big business transaction. I'm sure it was trafficking drugs.
He probably was with
Well, do you know what somebody else researched and found out? That he used to go down to Costa Rica all the time. He used to go down once a month.
Yeah.
When Carol had her period.
Well, he had a girlfriend down there.
So he was just like a multiple cheater. Like he cheated on, his wife with Carol, and then he had multiple girlfriends. And but also that is a motive for wanting to kill him too. So I don't know.
Not everyone's married to Heather McDonald. I'm just saying.
But then I think he disappeared, and she was in menopause. So now that also adds to the mystery. Who knows?
So tell us more about what's going on Juicy Scoop. What do you got? What are you covering now?
I mean, I've been doing the show. I've kept it going to be a fun escape. So it's every Tuesday and Thursday. Of course, I have Patreon too on Fridays and throughout the week. But there isn't a lot of news, so you got to come up with other stuff. So sometimes I just like recap shows, and even if you're not watching them, I kind of recap them with all my voices and everything. So it's very entertaining, and it is a great escape. And thank God that I have it, because I can't do stand up. Obviously, I'm a stand up, and that's all been postponed. And
there's also follow Heather on Instagram. What's your Instagram handle?
It's my name, Heather McDonald.
Because you can see Barbie reenactments of Real Housewife scenes. Pretty funny.
I do. Yes, I do lots of great a lot of great content. I'm kind of working my ass off, and I'm doing it. It's by Christian service. It's during Lent. I'm hoping that people, just can have some fun escape. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not, a doctor or a nurse. So, hey, if we can be of some entertainment and some escapism, then I think that's really great too.
Speaking of escapism, some goddess who very kindly read my review of Patrick Melrose is asking me to put a shout out for viewers of the stream, listeners today, to watch Patrick Melrose. It is a great series. You seen that one, Heather? Patrick Melrose?
No.
Oh my God.
What's that on?
It's probably now on Hulu or something, or Netflix, but it was I think a Showtime series, if I remember right. And it was one of the better explorations of drug addiction and alcoholism I've ever seen. He's, of course, amazing. Now I'm blanking on his name.
Yeah.
Susan, can you remember the name of the main actor in Patrick Melrose?
No.
I will look it up. An aging brain. I hate it.
Sorry about that.
Cumberbatch. Benedict Cumberbatch, of course.
Oh, great. Yeah. He's great.
Oh, yeah, him. I knew that.
Well, it's not the easiest name to remember, but we should all know, we know who he is. Yeah, thanks. I got it, Goddess. Thank you. So how were you're friendly with all the, well, I want to talk about a couple things. And you pick which one you want to talk about first. I'd love an update on your brother from prison. And if you can, and B, how are all your housewife friends? What's going on there? I heard you had some issues.
Oh, well, I didn't have any issues, but this is a very exciting thing. So I did a live podcast, which many of us do, in this business at the Irvine Improv. And part of that show was me interviewing two Real Housewives of OC, and this is back in June of 2018. And 2 days before we did that show at the Irvine Improv, their former castmate announced they were getting divorced.
Right.
And it was all over TMZ and Radar Online. So I do Hot Topics. Obviously, this was a relatable hot topic to everybody in the audience, as well as my two guests who were on this reality show with this person.
Who were the two?
And,
Tamara and who?
Tamara Judge and Shannon Bedore.
Shannon, okay.
So I said what I found interesting about the articles written about this divorce of Jim Bellino divorcing his wife, Alexis Bellino, is that in the divorce papers that they had obtained and written the article about, he was asking for spousal support. And we had all watched the show. They both were on for like 6 seasons or something. And the whole thing was that they were these, very Christian people, and their storyline was that Jim didn't want his wife to work outside of the home. And so I said, "Oh, isn't that interesting that he's filing for divorce and in it asking for spousal support, since we all watched it." So we had a discussion about it, and I asked some questions, and the two women answered it. And afterwards, he went and sued them for defamation, $1 million each, and then he sued me for $1 million as well.
For what? For just talking about what was in the press?
Yes.
Weird, right?
Right. Well, yeah, and that's anyone can file any lawsuit, I guess.
Right.
And so then we had to hire an attorney, who we hired a great attorney named Jeff Lewis, not Jeff Lewis from the Bravo, but another attorney named Jeff Lewis. And and I just got great news after. This was really the most stressful thing that's ever happened in my life.
Wow.
For sure.
Wow.
Being sued, yes, because it had a very chilling effect. That's what people do when they file lawsuits against you. It's to keep you quiet. Anybody following like Ronan Farrow's story and him trying to get the story out about Harvey Weinstein and these other people, he was constantly being threatened with defamation suits. And as a podcaster, it was a new medium. So what was amazing is we did an anti-slap suit and said this should be thrown out because there's freedom of speech. He's a public figure. And as a podcaster, I should be protected as a journalist and someone who collects the news and is able to talk about it. And so we won, and it was dismissed on those claims. And why that's important to all podcasters is because now there is an actual, law case that in which a podcaster is representative for being protected from First Amendment rights. So I'm happy that I can do it for the million of podcasters out there, but it was awful. And,
are you able to talk to Shannon or Tamara again, or is that out?
Well, what happened was when they were sued first, and in doing that, like most cases like this, you're based on attorney counsel. They say don't talk to anybody else in the case, me being one of the players in the case.
Right.
So I respected that. And so, no, I've not talked to them for over a year or so, and which is really heartbreaking because they were real friends of mine. And I, felt terrible about the whole situation. And now another part of this case was the context in which the conversation was had at a comedy club with a 2-drink minimum. This wasn't done, and then, and the third prong of it was I was never reached by him or his people to make any kind of retraction. Like when you open a People magazine and they say, last week we made a mistake. Dr. Drew is only this old. He wasn't this old or whatever. I never even got that. I still removed it. I removed it from the podcast within hours of posting it. I removed it, in which nobody then had it, and undid that on my own just because there was some concern that was being relayed to me, and I was like, well, I'll take it out. I'm not here to so I took it out, and but he still proceeded with this lawsuit in which we had to hire an attorney, and it's just a very stressful thing. I mean, if anybody's ever been sued for that, and the thing is that if I had another career that didn't rely on my salary from being a podcaster, I might have just said, screw it. I'm too scared. I'm never doing this again. I'm terrified that this will keep happening to me. And that's why I'm so glad that I did continue to fight and that I did prevail, because there's so many people that are entering this arena that would put down the mic and say, oh, forget it. And it's why a lot of people in other criminal cases of wanting to share their story chose not to share their story. And then that person continued to get away with a grievous behavior because they were the big, powerful man telling the girl to be quiet. And so, that's what I felt. I was like, oh, this person is really, really wealthy and can go and file these lawsuits and has a way of paying for it. And now I have to, thank God, I had some funds to defend myself as well. But for other people, they wouldn't, and that's what's so wrong about this whole process.
Well, appreciate you doing that for the rest of us. And then how's your brother, your brother in prison?
So I do have knowledge that he's been released.
Ooh.
And what's really great is that I have not heard from him.
Ah.
So I think that is a positive
progress.
And yes.
And your other sister, the attorney, has she heard from him? Or any sisters?
She is aware of it, but she, she's not really. She's involved at a distance too, but in no way. His counsel made it very clear, like that, not to be contacting me, and so far, that has worked. And so when I actually heard that he was out, I was kind of like, I wonder what I should do. And I really think just leaving it alone and not going, making, not possibly serving him with saying you better stay away or anything. I think that would poke the tiger, no pun intended, with the Tiger King. Right. But I do feel in these cases, and I've talked to you about it before, that I do think the longer time goes, the more distance, the less likely that they'll be triggered by the person, So I'm just laying low with it. Yeah.
Somebody's asking what happened to Tamara's ex-husband. He has cancer, or what is she doing?
Yeah, that's very sad. And I only have the knowledge that, was shared in People magazine, but her ex-husband, who's the father of her 3 younger children, he has some very serious cancer. I can't remember what kind it is. I think it's lung. But fighting very hard. But that's another thing. That's very hard on her, as you can imagine, because the kids are young. And, but what's nice in that I've read is that it's brought them, even though they're divorced, together. But that part is really sad, but I don't know the status of any of that, of any more of it.
Also, a goddess wants me to interview the author of the autobiography, Patrick Melrose. I'd be happy to interview. That's a good idea. If you have a contact, Susan, where should I put that? Send it to drdrew.com/contacts or say, okay.
Yes, that's perfect.
Well,
just go to drdrew.com, go to the email list.
Well, Heather, I'm glad to hear that you're thriving under all this. It's. I was hoping you would sort of clean.
I don't know that I'm thriving, but I do try to be someone that looks on the bright side of things, and there aren't a lot of bright sides of this. And so, I did think of some positives though. One is for all the people that suffered from FOMO, fear of missing out. This has probably been the best 2 weeks of their life.
Probably true. There's nothing you're not missing out on anything now.
You really can't. People that really struggle with I don't want to go out, but I don't want to miss it. They are just happy. Also, I thought, and I'm not really even trying to be funny. I mean, I'm really thinking I bet kidnappings and stuff have gone down because you don't know that you could be kidnapping someone that could have the coronavirus.
Right. The crimes have gone down. It's interesting, right? You don't want to take something away from somebody that could be infected.
Yeah, like that's not who you want. And then, so I've just, yes. Oh, and the other really exciting news is I taped a stand-up comedy special that I produced myself, and we were going to release it later in the year on one of the streaming platforms. But I am going to pre-release it on Patreon
Oh,
on April 9th.
oh my God, that's great. Well,
Yes.
you buried the lead. Tell us that again.
So I have a stand-up special that no one has seen, and I'm going to pre-release it on my Patreon page, which anybody who's part of my Patreon page will get it, but then anyone that wants to join will get it for just $5 for the month, and then you can stay on it or whatever you want. But it will be. I've decided to do that, and that was one of the positives I think that came out of this, because I was like, there's no one can see stand up, and people are doing concerts from their living room, but I actually have this great stand up special with, an audience, and it's a 4K stand up special, and it's,
It's good.
as good as you could see on anything else.
We've been watching.
You guys can watch it.
We will. What's the website? What is it? Juicy Scoop?
It'll be coming on April 9th on patreon.com/Juicy Scoop.
Okay.
Which will be, my.
Yeah, we've been watching.
And then we'll release it, to on other platforms. But this will be a pre-release there, and it will be not expensive. And if they're already part of it, then they get the benefit of, a gift for supporting me through Patreon.
We've been watching. We watched Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura and Christina P. We've been watching all their comedy specials, and it's really been. It gets you through the day. You know what I mean? Comedy specials right now, I think, are therapeutic.
Yeah, and I mean, especially because that's the first thing to stop is the concerts and stuff, but the comedy clubs, and hopefully when this is all done, people will go back to the comedy clubs. And
of course,
I am concerned about some of the independently owned comedy clubs that I hope that they can come back from it.
Right.
I was supposed to do a show in Hermosa, which is a privately owned comedy club at the Hermosa Beach Comedy Magic Club, and I just really hope that when they're closing it, it's closed right now, and it's closed till the end of April. And I just really hope that those type of clubs come back. That's what we hope, that like these smaller independent, whether it's a restaurant or whatever, is able to come back from such a big break like this,
Right. Okay. Well, Heather,
and with it, what I want to say is with it, the reason I'm doing it on Patreon is because it has a very good, rev share for people on Patreon. And through this, we will be making a very good donation. And you can maybe help me, because I don't know where the money will be needed come April 10th, 11th. So I don't want to say what charity I will be giving the money to, but it will help be fighting the coronavirus. So, what we will need most in a couple of weeks, I don't know what that'll be, but we will definitely be making a large donation from the funds that we get by releasing the stand up this way.
Patreon/Juicy Scoop, right?
That's lovely. Thank you,
Heather. Patreon.com/Juicy Scoop. Yeah.
All right, Heather. We'll check base with you later in the week, I'm sure, and touch base and see how you're doing, and say hi to Peter for me. And thank you for stopping by.
Thanks for coming on.
Yes, thank you for all your info.
All right, I'm gonna review the medical stuff, because their people come in and out of the stream, and they missed the earlier review, so I'm gonna do that again now. So
okay, good.
All right,
Great,
Heather.
bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye. So that is Heather McDonald, the podcast or stand-up comedian. Juicy Scoop is the podcast. And again, the patreon.com/Juicy Scoop to see her stand-up special on April 9th, did she say? All right. So let's review data again. So in LA County, we're at 1,400. We're at about 3,000 in the overall surrounding category. There are enough outstanding tests still, thousands of outstanding tests, that suggest we'll be up around 8,000 pretty quickly, but that still is in a catchment area of 30 million. So 8,000 in 30 million is really doing okay. We're doing okay at that point. And certainly the LA County officials are preparing for a worst case scenario. They have adequate ventilators, adequate ICU beds. So we are ready here in Southern California. I know New York is obviously the hotspot. That is the problem in the country right now. And they are meeting the need, but not without a struggle. They are presently at 44,000 cases. We are roughly around 100,000 here in this country, 90,000 really. And so essentially half the cases are coming from New York State, half the cases. So that is where this has really broken out. And there are 6,000 hospitalized presently, 6,800 hospitalized presently. So that is a major, major, major challenge. We'll get updates. Governor Cuomo's been giving updates every day from New York and asking for help and getting it, it appears. I know that Detroit is having a little trouble right now in Michigan, and that things are sort of surging there. And there are going to be other surges. Chicago's going to have a surge. Boston will have a surge. I'm not sure the surge is going to occur in Southern California. We've locked down early, and everyone is saying we will be in the same place in 6 to 12 days. I don't know how we get there because no one is having any interaction. Everything is completely shut down here, and it's been effective thus far. Our per capita death rate in California is flat. That's a flattening of the curve. Per capita death rate is flat with no increase. That is pretty amazing. So congratulations locally here in Southern California, at least. If you want resources to track the data, covidtracking.com is a very good resource. It's the COVID Tracking Project. And then, of course, I think everyone knows about the Johns Hopkins map that you see in all the cable news outlets. The map has it in at 97,000. The COVID Tracking Project has us at, I think, under 90,000. Has us at 82,000. So I was hoping for 60,000 today. I said if we were at 60,000, we'd be in really good shape. As I said earlier, I started seeing the rate of increase in New York, and I figured, well, now it's going to be more like 60 to 90,000, and still okay if the rest of the country doesn't surge the way New York is. And if you heard me on Colin Cowherd's radio show, I said 100,000 would still be pretty good by today. So we're okay if we continue to flatten the curve as we are. Now, remember, no one said that this is not going to spread, that people aren't going to get hospitalized and aren't going to get sick. That's just never said by anybody. It's going to spread. It's going to be challenging in certain areas. And if you do exactly what Dr. Anthony Fauci says and exactly what Dr. Deborah Birx says, we should be in pretty good shape. Like any viral flu epidemic, it's going to hurt people, and it does. Those epidemics always do. The influenza epidemic this year killed, I see differing data between 18 and 30,000 people. So we're nowhere near that. I do believe by the time we're done, we'll have around 600 to 900,000 cases. And that's still not 60 million, which was predicted. Remember, 60 million was the number out of the Imperial College in London. And that was what I was saying was impossible, just not going to happen. So, and Deborah Birx, Dr. Birx at the White House yesterday confirmed that those models have been absolutely flattened and are not realistic by any means, given what's going on in the country today. Now, what's going to happen next week is we will start to get data on treatment. And the question is, can we reduce hospitalizations and reduce fatality rate with treatment? And can we reduce viral shedding? The other thing, because Dr. Birx, I'm repeating this again, it tracks AIDS in Africa. She knows how to track and isolate viral illnesses using technology, viral testing, and antibody testing. And she's going to begin to do that in regions where there's low incidence so people can return to work. Hopefully soon there will be antibody testings as well so we can see who is immune, and that will release another big wave of individuals who could return to work. So this slow rollout kind of idea is something Dr. Fauci has been talking about for the last 2 days, and he repeats, as would do I, that to do anything like that in New York City is unrealistic, though there will be quite a large population of people who are immune. Who is discrediting Dr. Birx? Kurt, who is discrediting Dr. Birx? She is an excellent physician. What's that?
You mention what you're doing Sunday?
Sunday we'll have Christina P., a comedian in here, Tom Segura's wife. She does After Dark with me, and she's going to drop by and answer your calls and talk a little bit about how their family's doing.
And Jim Jeffries just texted me and said he might do it.
Oh, Jim Jeffries might come by too. Where is he?
Well, I don't know when. I haven't confirmed that.
Is he here or is he?
He's with Hank in his house.
Good.
Alive.
Okay, so can you be asymptomatic and spread it? Yes, you can. That's going to be the interesting question. Who is shedding and who is not? Who has antibody and who does not? That's the kinds of questions that need to be answered next. So what you're going to hear next week is about treatment, viral shedding, antibodies, and how to roll people back to work. That is it. Any reports of nausea as a symptom? I have heard cases where nausea is a presenting symptoms, but it evolves into other things pretty quickly. Another outbreak in China, yes. Again, China, you're just unable to keep it in a isolated environment. It's gotten into other parts of China now, apparently, and they're now having to deal with that. Now, in a way, we're ahead of China in that respect because we have it throughout the country and we are controlling it with local epidemiology, which is what I've been talking about all week. Local epidemiology rather than national epidemiology is a key component of fighting where you are. Somebody's asking, should I put off my son's checkup and shots? That is up to your pediatrician. You may be able to do some of it by telemedicine. Heal.com has good telemedicine services. You can check with them.
Can't get the shots, though.
Yeah, the shots, I would think they'd want you to get the shots. So we'll see. We'll see what they say. How do I think New York will make out? I think they will meet the needs. I think there will be a lot of stress. I think it's going to be very difficult. It's still, at a pretty steady rate the rate of increase has leveled, but the rate of new cases has remained constant. So that will be, until that flattens, it's going to be challenging there. Port Charlotte, Florida isn't isolating. Interesting. I feel like the whole country is stuck at home and isolating.
Is today your last day on Fox?
No, I'll be continuing for a couple of weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, I'm really kind of for the indefinite future at the moment, so we'll see. Hydroxychloroquine results on Google still saying it has little to no successful effect. That there are varying results out there, Dustin. The real studies will be opened up a little bit next week, so we'll get some real data next week. You can find as many positive hydroxychloroquine pieces of data as questionable ones. So that's non-data. That's non-data. Any positive info from the peers? Yes. And here locally, hospital census is unusually low because they're clearing out beds to be prepared should there be a surge. They have adequate ICU beds and adequate ventilators, plus the Navy vessel with 1,000 beds just docked today off it's at Long Beach Harbor, LA Harbor. Susan, you want to ask about the grocery store again in Greenpoint?
Oh, if anybody knows a grocery store that's open in Greenpoint or in the surrounding areas, let us know.
Okay.
Or anywhere that delivers. It's hard to get a delivery time.
Let's see.
But I would imagine you can probably order from Grubhub or something, right? Like,
sure.
I mean, if you have the money. But.
Stop advising people to use medication without studies. Super Terrific, never said that. Never said that. Never said that. In fact, that deserves a blocking. That would be irresponsible and frankly, block.
Stop hoarding medications?
No.
Really? I'll get them.
Yeah. Now they stop hoarding, but what I said was, and I will say it exactly as I've said it every day, is that there is enthusiasm amongst my peers. They are prescribing it routinely with cases now, and I know of people that are taking it prophylactically. That is happening. So because of that, I look forward to some positive results. The anecdotes locally are positive. I'm in Los Angeles. How does a virus start like this? It mutates in animals and then mutates just enough to be able to get over to humans. They're saying Williamsburg stores may be able to deliver in Greenpoint and Williamsburg. Susan? Okay.
I'm sorry, wait. I was blocking. Okay.
Williamsburg stores may be able to deliver in Greenpoint.
Be better?
No. May be able to deliver in Greenpoint.
Anybody know if
any stores in Williamsburg?
Okay, I'll mention that to her.
Okay, so here's somebody saying I had a slight fever. I never passed 100.4, slight chest pressure, a weird cough. They would come and go and got over it quickly. Robert, that is a syndrome I have seen and heard of. I can't even tell you how many times in the last 2 weeks. We don't know if that is corona or not. It could be a mild case, but you don't meet criteria for diagnostic testing. You have to have really clear evidence of lower respiratory infection and contact. So it's really reserved for the people who are sick. But someday soon we will have antibody testing, and you'll be able to get those antibody tests to see if you had it. That will be important.
I want it.
I want it too. It'd be nice to know.
I know I got it.
Kaylee, as everyone asks every day about pregnant women, and I will respond as I have every day, which is that pregnant women do very well. There's lots of study on pregnant women with coronavirus. Does not pass to the child. However, we don't know the long-term consequences, whether there'll be anything long-term on the babies and the children. We just don't know. Is the global shutdown affecting suicide rates? I've not seen data on that. However, I'm expecting that to have a significant effect. China did report on a lot of depression as one of the side effects of their interventions. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel that here. I feel that you got to get some sunlight, you got to get outside, you got to exercise. That depression is a serious risk, particularly if you've had it before. You're at about a 50-60% chance of a relapse, and it is just this kind of thing that can do so. How soon will the antibody test be available? I'm hoping that we'll hear about it at least next week. My mom, a 60-year-old, works at a grocery store. Should she be wearing mask and gloves? Definitely mask. Gloves, I'm not totally convinced that gloves are useful, except that it keeps your hands away from your face, and it gives you something to take off at the end and then wash your hands. So there's something to it. Just taking zinc effective against COVID. There was some talk about zinc, 50 to 80 milligrams early on. It couldn't hurt. It's some evidence that zinc has utility against viruses, but it's not going to be that significant, I suspect. Okay. I would argue that you should believe almost nothing you see on social media. There are so many spurious sources out there you can't even imagine. Be very careful of your sources. And even on TV right now, they're all reporting the same stuff over and over again, as though, this is what I knew would happen, as though it's happening nationwide. They'll take a local story and go, this is you. Not necessarily at all, but not if you're prepared. But does blood type A or O affect the virus? No evidence. We're getting the same questions all day, every day. Vitamin D would be helpful. Yes, 10,000 is a lot, but vitamin D is thought to be helpful as well. Epidemiologists have to work on it. Yes, they need to do surveillance and possibly random surveillance. We'll see about that.
Somebody wants to know if you have toilet paper.
I think we do.
I was already hoarding it before this started.
Can mosquitoes spread the virus? Absolutely not. Flies, no insect. There's no insect-borne, no waterborne, no food-borne element to this. Each of those require a highly specialized adaptation, particularly with the mosquito, into the gut of the mosquito as part of the life cycle of the organism. And viruses tend not to do that. Well, they do. I mean, there's certain ones. But this virus doesn't do that. It's things like the equine virus and encephalitis virus, that kind of stuff can be mosquito-borne.
So Cuomo said it's going to be a couple more weeks of this. This morning.
In New York, that's for sure. I don't know about Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, it's looking pretty good. Like there'll be a couple more weeks of question. We have to really buckle down.
Also, our friends that are staying at our place said that they went to Target. They made the mistake of going there, and they were bombarded by homeless people, and they were really, really concerned. It scared them. So imagine they're not getting any money from anybody, and they're probably in bad shape there.
Well, I would argue that it's a good idea to for the local governments to not just encourage, but to move people into treatment environments.
Yes.
You're going to have to do that. We have a powder keg downtown in Los Angeles, and literally billions of dollars sitting there waiting to be used, and it's not happening.
And then there was a fire on the 123 this morning at 111th.
In the subway station?
In the subway, yeah. One of the subway drivers died trying to save some people.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know where the fire came from, but it was not good.
Oh my goodness. Would it be dangerous to move to LA from San Diego? I mean, it's the same pretty much. Somebody's asking if azathioprine in combo with chloroquine. I have no evidence that that's the case. I was surprised to see how much data there was on chloroquine and its antiviral properties.
Somebody wants to know if there'll be lung damage from this.
There, like with any pneumonia, there can be. It depends how bad. Any prolonged pneumonia, any prolonged ARDS, any prolonged ventilator support can damage your lungs. So it just depends on what the course is.
What about our friend Johnny's boyfriend, John, who
he had a phrenic nerve paralysis, which is an unusual kind of a complication of viral illnesses.
He's the one we got it from.
Somebody's asking about Dr. Fauci. And again, just listen to Dr. Fauci, listen to Dr. Birx, do what they tell you. I've been saying that from the beginning. They are the ones who know what they're doing with this, and they will keep you safe. They don't do more, don't do less than they say, and you will be fine. Why am I not using closed cases to calculate the death rate? I am using the COVID tracking project. That is my primary source. Again, 82,000. You got to put an outbreak of 82,000 in context. It's a worse virus, but it's not 25 million or 24 million like we've had of influenza, which is really good. Okay, well, let's kind of wrap things up. Thank you to Heather McDonald for spending a little time with me.
It was hard being uplifting. People were like,
yeah, people don't want to hear anything positive, which I find extremely disturbing, frankly. You should start to look at things, start to watch comedy. You should start to look forward to next week when we are going to start to hear about the road forward.
I mean, some people have it a lot worse, you know.
I understand, but if you sit and only consider there no future, if you're hopeless about the future, this is not going to go well for you. You have to start looking forward to how we're going to get through this. Now that we've locked it down, now that we've had some containment, now that we've had some mitigation, that next you flip to some containment and return to work. So this is concerning. And I would accuse you, if you attack people who have any sort of interesting ideas for how to get out of this, think about that. You're saying you'd rather stay. What is the alternative? You'd rather stay indefinitely in a lockdown, or you start to figure out ways we get out of this? Because no matter how you time it, you're going to have to figure that out, because this thing, unless we have effective treatments, unless we have effective mitigation, it's going to be around. So we need to start talking about that.
Isolation is not easy, though.
Right. It's not good for people.
And mothers have this way of trying to make positive out of the negative, you know, because when you have kids, you have to help them stay up and stay focused. And she's just trying to give advice.
Who is that? Heather?
Heather, yeah. I mean, she's a very smart woman. She's a brilliant producer and a writer.
Comedian.
And, you know, I mean, it sucks that she can't work, but she's also finding positives and having time to do the things that
you should all do the same. And shame on you for telling people they have to stay negative.
I mean,
it doesn't make sense. We're not in the prediction.
Every day. Like,
the prediction was 60 million people. That was the prediction in this country. We're not going anywhere near that. So I would say these are reasons to pat ourselves on the back that these aggressive measures we are taking are working.
Try to stay sane.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for hanging out. And we, again, Christina P. on Sunday. Are we going to do one tomorrow, you think?
Let me get that banner. I want everybody to see it. Sorry.
1,400 cases in Los Angeles County. Good for everybody here.
I'm not sure who else will be on Sunday, but right now, Christina P. is going to Skype in. We're going to use social distancing again and have a nice chat with her, maybe have some other people on as well, and try to, touch base. And I mean, I know you do the once a week with her on Dr. Drew After Dark, but she's been maintaining 2 small children in her house. And I think Tom was on a bus coming home from somewhere. He was like on a tour bus. So,
right.
So I don't know if he's home or what, but it should be interesting to hear her take on all of this.
When will I talk about, where'd that go? Hold on one second before we wrap this up. When do I think we'll see the
like,
peak
okay,
in
I'm
U.S.?
outta here, but-
Yeah, all right, let's wrap it up. All right, thank you so much, and we'll see
be
you
back tomorrow.
Okay, see you tomorrow. Needles have increasingly become a part of everyday life. Proper disposal is both difficult and expensive. We have the solution. Simpler, safer, affordable, and fulfills the obligation to protect our environment. A single stick with something like this means tracking down the user, it means blood test for the person's stock, it means possibly medication for an extended period of time. Needle sticks are devastating. No more. Incinerate the needle. Needle goes in this port. It's over. Done. Needle gone. We all have loved ones who use needles. Keep their home safe. Medical offices are loaded with sharps. We are using ancient technology to protect our patients, our staff, ourselves. You know what needle sticks do. You know the cost and the devastation psychologically and physically, potentially, from a needle stick. Eliminate that completely. Stop using ancient technology. Sand MIDI. It will solve your problems. Find out more at needledestructiondevice.com.